Good afternoon, everyone. So I am Jacques Bonifay, CEO and co-founder of Transatel. So I'm going to speak today about the synergies between the MVNO business and the machine-to-machine business. I think it will be around 2 points. There is a cost efficiency in being in both business because it's about managing the connectivity to a network and providing provisioning and billing services. And the other aspect is in the machine-to-machine aspect. You got a B2B2C component where you need to manage a retail offer, for example, prepaid offer with top-up. And when you are in the MVNO business, managing prepaid MVNO, obviously you do have an advantage when you have to manage the same kind of service on the machine-to-machine. So that's really the two main ideas of my presentation. Just a few words on Transatel. The company has been founded in 2000. Our customers are mainly MNOs, where we provide services, we'll come back on that, but also MVNOs, and now, since a few years, machine-to-machine players. We operate in 6 countries, we are around 100 people now. We run 80 MVNOs for a total of 600,000 subscribers across different business models, and we'll come back on that quickly. Up to today, we run about 400 machine-to-machine SIM cards, so altogether it's about 1 million SIM cards that we manage through the MVNO or machine-to-machine businesses. All that is managed thanks to a platform which is hosted in 2 hosting centers in Paris, which are away from each other of a few kilometers. So we do have geographical redundancy. There's about 70 engineers working on this platform. We got agreement with several MNOs. We operate under a free business model. I will come back on that. This is the connections we have in terms of network. So this is for mostly for the MVNO business, but also for the machine-to-machine business. So Orange and Bouygues in France, Verizon Movistar in Belgium, Tango in Luxembourg, Orange in Switzerland, and of course one of the most important one, Everything Everywhere in the UK. And you had a presentation this morning from Marco Verton on this machine-to-machine business. The 3 business models that we have been using for the MVNO business, and now we are using it on the machine-to-machine business. The first business model is an enabler business model, where basically an MVNO or a machine-to-machine player do have a deal with an MNO, and we are a technical subcontractor of either the MVNO or the MNO. In most of the cases, we are a subcontractor of the MNO, so if I take the example of United Kingdom with Everything Everywhere, all the MVNOs which are launched by EE happen to be outsourced to us, technically speaking, the new MVNOs. But also, Everything Everywhere is outsourcing to us is machine-to-machine connectivity. We also have some other MVNOs, just a few examples. For example, Hortel in Switzerland, which is an ethnic MVNO, or Colruyt in Belgium on the Movistar network, Colruyt being the biggest supermarket chain in Belgium. The second business model is the aggregator business model, where, so on the MVNO business today, where we buy airtime from the MNO and we resell it to the MVNOs. So, for example, in France, there is 37 fixed operators targeting the SME segment which are buying airtime from us. And in this business model, it's really the MNOs which is outsourcing to us the business development around niche MVNOs. So we could imagine in the future that could be something on the machine-to-machine side. And we also are an MVNO ourselves under our own brands. I'm not going to comment too much on that. But we do have several brands that we manage in different countries. So the synergies, I mean, if I focus on the economical aspect of doing MVNO and machine-to-machine business with an MNO, first it lies in the interconnection. Basically, when Transatel went to interconnect to provide postpaid and prepaid services with real-time control in any new country, it cost us between €500,000 and €1 million to do the connections. So we do have a centralized platform in Paris that to interconnect to a fairly big network and provide all the necessary quality of service that we need to bring nowadays. It's basically an investment of €1 million, a small €1 million. So of course, if you do MVNO and machine-to-machine services, then you can amortize this investment on the 2 business. Same thing when you operate. Of course, clearly, when you operate an MVNO business and a machine-to-machine business on the same network, then there is a mutualization impact on the link, on the quality of service you want for the link, but also on all the provisioning activities, the billing activities, the management of CDRs, and so on. So in the case that Transatel is already interconnected to an MNO, and we have been, let's imagine that we've been working with an MNO for several years doing an MVNO business, and we want to launch machine-to-machine services, then it's just a question of a few months to enable the machine-to-machine services, and the cost, it's actually quite low because everything has been already taken care for the MVNO business. So there is a significant saving on the investment and also economy of scales, which come very quickly because most of the economy of scale is already covered by the MVNO business. And the MVNO business, the ARPU tend to be much higher in the MVNO business than in the machine-to-machine. So we see that how much the MVNO or the MNO businesses are each taking care of the investment and the fixed running cost. It's a question of accounting. But that could be very favorable to the machine-to-machine business compared to a standalone investment just to do machine-to-machine. Now, the fact that you are working with an MNOs and doing MVNO and machine-to-machine business, it's quite good because actually when you do a meeting, you speak with both. It happened that Mark Overton, who presented this morning, is in charge of MVNO business, he's in charge of machine-to-machine business. So when I meet Mark, we can discuss about both subjects. That facilitates a lot of discussions and the decision process to be able to have some global discussions. The second point is about the B2B2C business model, and it's really around the life cycle, the prepaid capability, including the top-up aspect, and also the fraud management. People don't speak too much about fraud management in machine-to-machine. I mean, it's a big thing on the MVNO side, because several MVNOs went bankrupt because of fraud. Coming from the MVNO business, we are quite careful. So we didn't discover any major fraud on the machine-to-machine business, but I would say it's in our DNA to anticipate any kind of fraud which can happen. And when you start to provide some SIM cards, I consider that there is a fraud risk in that. So that's the global synergies. Now, if I go into a bit deeper into the case of a relationship between Transatel and Everything Everywhere, EE, in 2007 we've been selected by Orange UK to become their MVNE, to launch MVNOs on their network as a technical subcontractor, so under the enabler business model. Then 2 years after, they decided that we should buy airtime from them and sell it to small MVNOs. So they have been asking us, please develop the business of small MVNOs by buying airtime from us and selling it. By the way, it's not something they wanted from us at the beginning. I asked them in 2007, can I do it? And they said no. And then we worked together for 2 years. Trust came, and they said, yes, now we are happy we are happy that you do it. And today we run 12 MVNOs. One of them is China Telecom, enjoy this model. Then in 2011, after the merger, they made the assessment that their current IT system to manage machine-to-machine on the T-Mobile side and on the Orange side were not good enough, were not appropriate to compete, and they wanted to have the solutions very quickly. And they basically had two choices. Either they wanted for a big RFP process by putting some specifications, so you need a few months to make the specifications, then you run an RFP process for another few months, then some big guys are building for you solutions, so basically you need more than a year to a year and a half to have the new solutions. And they wanted to have the solutions very quickly. So for them, the easiest things, I mean the only solutions to have a very quick solution was to rely on someone which was already connected to their network, and that was Transatel. So we met together and we managed to make plans on the table so that we bring to them solutions in 6 months, which were responding to all their basic requirements to enable machine-to-machine. And that's what we did, and that was in 2011, and now the solution has been working for 1 year and a half, a bit more than 1 year and a half. So the platform which is derived from our MVNO business and which is now operating for Everything Everywhere, but I can't tell with which MNOs, but it's going also to be launched with another MNO in Europe in 2 months. This is a kind of classical machine-to-machine connectivity management system, like you can, which is already also proposed by some of the competition. So that's bringing all the things you need to enable machine-to-machine. I'm not going to comment too much on that, but myself or Bertrand Salomon, my associate, be happy to come back even to answer any questions you might have after. And if you actually, if you want, this is not enough. This is not enough because, as you know, in the machine-to-machine ecosystem, you have many players. You have service provider which provide applications, software vendor. You have the MNO, you have device manufacturer, you have integrators, you have various kind of service provider and resellers, and you need what we call an enablement layer. The connectivity management, of course, which is really where Transatel focus. You need to have some service enablement layer. You need also to remove the device, and you need some kind of marketplace so that everybody can do business together. And one of the reasons I think, and it's maybe stating the obvious, that the machine-to-machine business is growing, but is not growing as fast as we could expect, is that the world is quite complex. There are many players, and all that takes time to actually get organized and to grow. So that's why we are working on building an ecosystem around us. So last year we announced a partnership with NEC. NEC is bringing to the ecosystem a layer to be able to, so that vertical service can be enabled. They also bring their business development capacity and their sales capacity, especially around the Japanese company, which want to provide their service and their operations not only in Japan, but also, for example, in Europe, as far as Transatel is concerned. A bit later, 9 months ago, we announced a partnership with Numerex, which is very big in the US. And here again, it's the same kind of concept where they bring an original layer to provide enable services, and you have some person from Numerex which can be much more precise than I on what they are doing. And yesterday we have announced a partnership with Digi. So our platform is now also in interface with Digi, especially around the device management. So of course we are not going to stop here, so we are talking to some other players to bring an ecosystem. We are not the only one on the market to do that, but it's really to allow to have, so what we're basically bringing is the connectivity to the MNOs, so that the MNOs don't have to develop on his legacy or the machine-to-machine IT aspect. We are doing that for you, so you can outsource to us, which bring cost efficiency and time to market. And in the same time, we are making ourselves compatible with the world, and by building an ecosystem around us, just like other players are doing. Alors, now I'm going to focus more on the B2B to C aspect. All that are examples you know, but if we take a car manufacturer has a SIM card in his vehicle. First, for some basic services that you all know, such as telematics, security, telediagnostic if there is a breakdown in the engine, but also have some partnership with some third party, for example, the insurance, the pay-as-you-drive insurance, coming back to the example of given by Mark this morning, could be around fleet management. And there's the vehicle entertainment, where the end user wants the connectivity by itself and is ready to pay for that. So we clearly see that there is two kinds of traffic. The traffic which is around the vehicle, which is more machine-to-machine focused, and the traffic which is the requirement of the individuals, whether it's the person who wants to know where is the restaurant, or the kids who want to watch a movie on the back of the vehicle. There is more or less the same kind of concept with a PlayStation, where you have these two kinds of device, one around the device, one around the game, and why not also the traffic to access internet. So if we look at the usage, so we see that there is a combination in the case of the car, in the vehicles. You have all the machine-to-machine type of services, which tend to be low usage. On the other hand, you see that there is an individual in the car who wants to have access to internet, like he has access to his iPhone. You want to have access to internet, maybe you want to make a phone call. So it's the same kind of usage that you can have with a smartphone. And the result of that, when you put SIM cards in millions and millions of vehicles, is a combination of both. So it's a weighted average between the machine-to-machine verticals and the general purposes, which means it's got variable kind of usage, multi-purpose, so it's sometimes difficult to anticipate. It goes from low usage to high usage, and basically you need to be compatible in both worlds, the machine-to-machine and what we call here a general purposes. Now, if you look at who are the suppliers, the customers, the user, in the machine-to-machine case, clearly, I mean, you have one supplier, which is the MNOs. The customer is a machine-to-machine service provider, or the car manufacturer, if we consider that the car manufacturer is providing the service. And the user is an enterprise, a consumer, an authority, depends on the business case. In the general purpose, it's the usual model where you've got an MNO who has or at least a mobile operator, could be an MVNO, but who has as a customer and end user, so that's what we all know. And the hybrid model, you have a combination of both. It depends also at the time. Maybe at the beginning you start by a machine-to-machine type of business model, and then you evolve after a few days or a few months to more of what we call here the general purpose business model. So you have to go from B to C, and you have to manage these transactions, these evolutions, long time, and it's really an MVNO-like business model. So what we see as a life cycle, you have a consumer who goes shopping and he buy an handset, a device, whether it's a PlayStation, a tablet, or whatever. The device is Wi-Fi and 3G enabled, because so it does include some capacity to get connected. So for example, a 5 megabyte included, so that he can have a first experience, he can try, and also after he have tried and after he said that he liked the service or the different kind of service which are proposed, then he can subscribe. So there is all this life cycle aspect where you provide some free services to the end user. Those free services can be for different kind of services, and whether we speak just of access to internet or just to buy books, digital books. I mean, there's no limit to the imagination here. And then he has to subscribe and to register. So some examples are already existing in the market. So there are some cases between Sony and Vodafone, SFR and Sony. On this one thing we may wonder is that the end user has to put the SIM card in the device, which is not exactly maybe the most friendly for the person, because that starts to bring complexity. We see that in the Amazon Kindle, that was completely transparent with the end user, but in this case, the person can only buy books. He cannot access to internet, which for sure will be an evolution in the future where you don't pay the same price. I mean, there is a price to buy books and there's a price to have access to internet, and this is actually two physical flow, but maybe in terms of subscriptions, they may subscribe to different players, whether it's to buy books or whether it's just to access internet. So the service provider providing the service can be different, but it's still the same SIM card, and you have to manage that, this multiple player aspect. So in summary, consumer devices become more and more connected, Wi-Fi and 3G, and tomorrow it will be LTE. It has to have a ready-to-go trial period, which is essential to get started and so that the end user adopts the service. There is an element of user registration, which is a mandatory step because it cannot provide free services forever. And then in terms of the accounts, if you are, for example, with Amazon, you already have an account with Amazon, so are you going to subscribe to Amazon or are you going to subscribe with another service provider? Then that's part of the business model which we are going to evolve in the future. Taking into account that it's important to offer one-stop shopping for content and connectivity to make the life of the end user easy, because you want a single purchase decision and a single registration. And everything has to be done to make the life of the end user easy and the decision process of the end user. Now, coming back to see who is providing the service can be provided by the vendor. Vendor provides his own service and he provides also the connectivity. Here we are really in a classical MVNO deal. You got the car manufacturer, the device basically buying airtime from the MNO and doing his own business. Or it could be a co-marketing deal where the end user buy a device in a shop from a device vendor, but have a contract with the mobile operators or mobile virtual operator, whatever. But then you need to have a tight integration. So it's kind of lots of work, so there is some complexity here. And we enter into a co-marketing deal or a licensing type of deals that we see in the MVNO business. So I tend to think that the model on the left-hand side is more simple and maybe more appropriate, but both models can exist. The second model is really a B2B2C model, when the other one, as shown by the little draws, is a bit more complex. Conclusion, it's difficult to see how the world is going to evolve, but various models will emerge. Anyway, the flexibility is key. It's important to be able to combine MVNO and machine-to-machine capacity and flexibility. And the possibility to manage retail offers is really important because the usage of connectivity will be consumed in different ways, whether it's a post-paid consumptions, or prepaid consumptions, whether it's per megabyte or per service. So I'm coming back to the idea of that the MVNO experience is quite important. And this drawing is the same one as I showed you on the previously, and I'm just pointing out here the prepaid aspect and the top-up management aspect, which is typically prepaid kind of MVNO, which are useful in some of the machine-to-machine businesses where you involve the end user.